I'd like to talk about the number 4 at the Seder. We know the number 4 obviously figures prominently. We have 4 cups of wine, 4 questions, 4 sons. And yet this wasn't always the case. If we go back to the Mishnah, the only one of these things to be mentioned in the Mishnah is the 4 cups of wine. The original text of the Mishnah has only 3 questions, as I discussed at this forum in a previous year. And the 4 sons wasn't added to the text of Haggadah until later. So where did the significance of the number 4 come from? So perhaps you've looked at Rashi or remember being taught as a kid that it relates back to the 4 expressions of redemption that Hashem uses in Parsha Va'era, V'hotzeti, V'tzalti, V'ga'alti, V'lakachti. I'll take you out of Egypt, I'll save you, redeem you, take you to be my people. And if you take this approach, this makes the number 4 an important symbolic number for the festival celebrating our redemption from Egypt. And then if Rashi's right, it makes sense why we added more 4s to the Seder over the years. But Rashi's explanation is far from obvious. Tosfot, including some of Rashi's own students and grandchildren, most likely did not agree with it. In a number of places, Tosfot indicate that they really do not think there is any special significance to the number 4. We drink 4 cups of wine at the Seder for the same reason we drink wine with Kiddush at any Shabbat or holiday, namely to demonstrate the importance of the mitzvah of Kiddush. It just so happens to be that there are more mitzvot at the Seder than an ordinary Shabbat or Yom Tov. There are 4 speech mitzvot at the Seder. There's Kiddush, Magid, benching, and Hallel, and so we have a cup of wine with each of them to show their importance. Had there been 3 speech mitzvot, we'd be drinking 3 cups, and had there been 5, we'd be drinking 5. It really isn't about the number 4. In multiple places, Tosfot assume that we can learn halachot about the 4 cups of wine at the Seder from halachot about Kiddush, because the reason for them is the same. For instance, they hold that minimally only one person needs to drink each cup, just like Kiddush, though ideally, like with Kiddush as well, it's preferable for everyone to drink. They assume that the minimum you need to drink from each cup of wine at the Seder is a cheekful, which is something the Gemara only ever says by Kiddush, never about the 4 cups. Rashi never explicitly disagrees with these things, but the Rambam, who presumably learns the same way as Rashi, or similar to Rashi about the significance of the number 4, does. Rambam rules that, unlike Kiddush, every individual at the Seder needs to drink 4 cups of wine. Unlike Kiddush, where you only need to drink a cheekful, by the 4 cups of wine, you have to drink a majority of the cup, regardless of the cup size. And as the Rambam explains, the 4 cups of wine are about more than just demonstrating the significance of the speech mitzvah they're connected with. 4 cups of wine is an independent mitzvah of the Seder because, as the Rambam explains, the drinking of wine itself is one of the ways we demonstrate freedom. So we have these 2 approaches to the 4 cups of wine, one which really grants significance to the number 4, makes the 4 cups of wine this independent demonstration of freedom, and the other approach that it's really not all that significant, it's just about how many mitzvot there are at the Seder. So we saw a couple of practical ramifications in terms of halachot for which of these 2 approaches. So which of these 2 approaches do we follow? So on the first point, Shulchan Aruch rules that every individual needs to drink the 4 cups, which would seem to indicate that we follow Rashi and the Rambam's approach, that the 4 cups of wine have this independent symbolic significance. However, when it comes to the amount you have to drink, Shulchan Aruch quotes both opinions. 1, that you only need to drink a cheekful, and 2, that you need to drink a majority of the cup, regardless of the size, and doesn't tell us which one he agrees with. Mishnah Brura assumes that we really rule like the first approach, that you only need a cheekful, even though it's ideal to try to have a majority of the cup and fulfill both approaches. But what's interesting is this isn't some technical debate over the quantity required. It's really a fundamental debate about the nature of the mitzvah. And in the Mishnah Berurah's ruling, it makes Shulchan Aruch inconsistent on the 2 practical ramifications on this debate. So Aruch HaShulchan, on the other hand, recognizes the connectedness of these 2 debates and rules that we fundamentally hold like the second opinion, that you need to drink a majority of the cup regardless of the size. Parenthetical note, add this to your list of places where the Aruch HaShulchan is stricter than the Mishnah Berurah, despite his reputation for being lenient. So it would seem, again, if this is really what's going on, then the Aruch HaShulchan seems to be right, that we really do hold like the symbolic approach, and then we understand why we added all these other 4s to the Seder, and then the ramification of that is you need to drink a majority of each cup of wine. Of course, if your cup isn't too big, there isn't much practical difference between the two opinions. So there are ways to get out of not having so much if you don't like wine, but hopefully that gives some deeper understanding into the nature of the mitzvah, how we understand it, where the significance of the number 4 comes from, and some of the practical ramifications of that.